let's say you get a program off the internet, and it says, exercise, arbitrary, whatever, and it says, hey, do 5 sets of 10. Now, for a lot of people that are just starting off with working out, and you see something, you get a list of exercises you do on different days, and it has, however many reps and sets you do. But you're not really sure, like, okay, what weight do I use? And how do I scale this to myself? And a lot of people are confused as in, okay, do I pick a weight that I can do all five sets, that I can do 10 reps for all 5 sets? Do I do the most weight that I can do for 10 reps and then obviously you're tired, so you're gonna do less weight on the next set and less weight on the next set, it's called drop sets. Or do you pick a weight that you can do for 10 reps and then, the next set you do 8, the next set you do 7, 6, 5, however many you get on each subsequent set where, performance is gonna start to drop off as you start to get tired. So what's the answer here? And honestly, like, the answer kind of becomes one where if you're new to training, it doesn't matter. The one I would probably go the least with is don't pick a weight that says that you can do all 5 sets of 10, unless you pick a weight where the last set, is really difficult, or maybe you only get like 8 or 9 reps. You should at least be getting close to failure by the time you do your last set. If all 5 sets of 10 or however many sets of however many reps you're doing, if all the sets are really easy, you're leaving a lot of gains on the table and you're probably not going to see as much progress from that. Now, the important thing is, although it doesn't necessarily matter where you start with, however you allocate your sets and reps, it does matter, depending on where you start, how you progress it. So this is kind of the concept that we refer to as low-hanging fruit. So generally, whatever quality is least present within the program, that's the one that if you want to get the fastest progress, or you want to see the most significant impact on your athleticism or your performance, you incorporate that quality that's least present in the program. So we kind of touched on this in another video where we discussed, if you're on a program, let's say, that's relatively low volume, but it's really high intensity, it often makes more sense, if you want to make faster progress, to slowly increase your training volume over time, and you keep your absolute intensity relatively fixed. Likewise, if you're on a very high volume but mostly low intensity program, it doesn't usually make sense to add more volume to that kind of program, but it does usually make sense to start, inching up intensity, every couple weeks or as you're able to. So that being said, we often want to look for those weak points within a program and what's not present. So let's say, for example, you do your 5 sets of 10 and you do drop sets, for example. So usually in that case, we look at the weakest part of your performance, which is going to be, well, how much weight are you lifting on that last set? And we start trying to increase the numbers of not necessarily the first set where you did 10, you lifted the heaviest weight. You want to increase the amount of weight you lifted on your lightest sets, and then you build everything back up to where whatever weight that you start at, you can do all 5 sets of 10. And once you get there, then you can start, increasing your weight further. That's usually a much easier way to make meaningful progress and increasing your work capacity than just trying to get a higher top set every time. Alternatively, if you pick a weight that, if you try to stay at the same weight every set, you get, a set of 10 on the first set, and a set of 9, set of 8, set of 7, and so on. Go after try to improve on those sets where you didn't get to all 10 reps, and try to get so that they're all sets of 10. You don't necessarily want to just gas yourself out on that first set where, you're trying to hit a PR and I did 10 on the first workout, and then you shoot for 11, 12, 13 on that first set, and then you're just completely depleted for your next sets, and then those sets, you have a hard time kind of improving those. Now, granted, once you can do all 5 sets of 10, then you can start looking at, maybe on that first set, we up the weight a little bit, and then we drop back down. We increase the weight on one of those sets, and then we back all the rest of those sets back down. We don't necessarily always want to increase the weight of all the sets all at the same time, except in cases where we can make very small adjustments. So, if you're doing bench press with 250 or something like that, and you did 5 sets of 10, then in those cases, you can try to increase all the sets up by adding 2.5s to each side, or even, 1 1/4 plates, bump it up to 255 kind of deal for your weight, and then try to get 5 sets of 10, and then, every couple of workouts, try to add very teeny amounts of weight. But, in cases where, you're training with dumbbells, the weight adjustments are bigger, you're doing like sets of 10 with like, the 15s on the lateral dumbbell raises or something, and then you want to bump up the sets of, and then you bump up, the next weight increment's 20 pounds, that's a 30% weight increase. So in that case, you might take one set where you bump it up to 20 pounds, and then for the last sets, you bump down to 15, because otherwise, you bump all your weights up, you might find that you have enough of a reduction in volume that you don't get as much of a training effect, and your progress might actually slow down. So those are things to consider, and just kind of like when you look up all these online programs, it's not just about like, sometimes it doesn't matter as much like how you start the program, but it does matter how you progress it. So whatever you end up doing, try to find those weak points in your performance, usually those points where you're starting to feel pretty tired, and then you basically are trying to raise up your minimum performance as opposed to constantly shooting for improving your maximum performance and trying to get a PR every time. So hope that was helpful. See you guys later.